So recently, I finally got a chance to watch Black Panther Wakanda Forever on Disney+. After putting up a poll on my Instagram to see what recent movies on streaming you guys wanted me to talk about, Wakanda Forever was the winner, with Glass Onion as a close second. Starting with my initial thoughts, I really liked the movie. It's clear there was a great deal of love and care put into making it, from storytelling to characters and even set design. Let's not forget the fantastic score as well, which had a lot of great pieces that really fit with the movie. I could tell Ryan Coogler and everyone involved gave everything they had to make this movie as fantastic as it is. One thing I can appreciate about this movie is that they were able to give the character of T'Challa a presence, and while Chadwick Boseman's absence is still felt, the movie doesn't ignore how important he and the character of T'Challa are. There's still a lasting effect of the previous movie's ending, as well as the personal ties to the other returning characters, most notably Shuri and Queen Ramonda. Before we get into them and the rest of the cast, I want to talk about... The story of Wakanda Forever was really well written. It deals heavily with T'Challa's death and how the rest of the world wants to get its hands on vibranium now that Wakanda has opened itself up to other nations. We see the ramifications of that desire as the main antagonist, Namor, tries to get Wakanda to ally themselves with him and his people, seeing a level of kinship through the fact that Wakanda and Talokan are both nations who remain hidden from the world and have a distrust of outsiders. Another key element is Riri Williams, who becomes the target of the Talokans after a machine she made was used by the CIA to discover vibranium in the ocean, which was then dismantled by Namor. With intel given to them by Everett Ross, Shuri and Okoye make it their mission to protect Riri while avoiding war with Talokan and the US. Eventually, Shuri and Riri are taken by Namor to Talokan City, and after learning his backstory, Shuri receives a bracelet that belonged to Namor's mother. Nakia is brought back into the fold by Ramonda to rescue the girls, which leads to Namor and the Talokan attacking Wakanda. The attack leaves the main city partially flooded, and Ramonda dies after saving Riri from drowning. Shuri, using threads from Namor's bracelet, successfully recreates the heart-shaped herb, and after seeing Killmonger in the ancestral plane, rallies the people of Wakanda together in a coordinated assault on Namor, now adorned in a new Black Panther suit. They head to the Atlantic Ocean as the final showdown kicks off. Using heat lamps aboard the Talon fighter, Shuri captures Namor and flies off to the desert nearby, as Riri, now wearing a completed Ironheart suit, provides backup to the Wakandans as they fight Namor's army. As the battle comes to a close, Shuri has Namor at her mercy, but spares him after seeing a vision of Queen Ramonda. They return together to the ocean, with Namor telling the Talokan to return to the waters, ending the battle. After sending Riri back to the US, Shuri goes to Haiti to burn her funeral gown, symbolizing her finally accepting her brother's death. Back in Talokan City, Namor adds to a mural shown earlier, warning that Wakanda is going to need them as allies in the near future. The post-credit scene has Shuri meeting Toussaint, Nakia's son, who reveals his name is
Prince T'Challa, son of King T'Challa.
To me, the major characters from Wakanda Forever worth talking about are Shuri, Ramonda, M'Baku, Okoye, Riri, Nakia, and lastly, Namor. Starting with Shuri, it's made apparent that she's our main character right from the beginning. We see her try to save T'Challa's life after he falls ill, but fails to do so, leaving Wakanda without a Black Panther. This failure is the driving force of her arc in the movie, as she struggles to fully move on. After battling Namor and becoming the new Black Panther, her faith is restored and she's able to move on. Queen Ramonda, on the other hand, was more willing to accept this loss at the beginning, and focuses all her attention on leading Wakanda and stands before the nations of the world as they try to push for Wakanda to share vibranium with other nations. She tries her hardest to keep Wakanda united as they have to deal with Namor and the US government, but things continue to escalate, with her death at Namor's hands being Shuri's breaking point as she now seeks revenge. Now I just want to put it out there, but for as little screen time as M'Baku had, every second he showed up was memorable and impactful. His growth from just another warrior leader in the first movie to becoming the voice of reason and a source of wisdom in this is fantastic. Seeing him act as a mentor figure for Shuri after Ramonda's death felt really important, and when he wasn't acting in that mentor role, he was being the best source of comedy in the whole movie. From smart-ass comments to his readiness for battle, M'Baku really killed it in every scene he was in. Okoye and Nakia were also really important figures in this movie too, with Okoye being Shuri's right hand throughout the movie, even receiving the Midnight Angel armor from the comics just in time for the final act. Nakia, on the other hand, not only served a narrative purpose in rescuing Shuri and Riri, but also held significance as one of the few people who saw T'Challa as more than just his titles of King and Black Panther prior to his death. Next up, Riri Williams, who I thought could have used a little more development, While she was definitely a welcome addition to the cast, I felt like her story was rushed through a little too quickly. Sure, we learned a little bit about how and why she's an inventor and that she's been building her own suit of armor, as well as the machine used to detect the vibranium, but aside from that, she felt like a bit of an afterthought despite how important she was made out to be. Nonetheless, I'm still looking forward to the release of the Ironheart series, which should hopefully wipe away any gripes I have with her in the movie. Saving the best for last, we gotta talk about Namor. Yes, I know that it's pronounced Namor in the movie, but both that and Namor are used interchangeably, so I guess it really doesn't matter? He was easily one of, if not, the best thing that came out of this movie. His inclusion felt very natural, and while it would have been insane to see him square up with T'Challa, still seeing him getting his shit rocked by a Black Panther after killing Ramonda was cool to see. I also really liked the change the movie made to his backstory. Instead of it being Atlantis, they root his heritage closer to Mayan and Aztec mythology. Having ties with real-world cultures in a similar manner to Wakanda helps add a level of realism and mythology to the character and the world he inhabits. He becomes a natural foil to Shuri, given that they both want to do everything in their power to protect their nation and the people they care about. And they keep him alive at the end, which means that Namor is part of that exclusive club of antagonists that still have a role to play in another movie. Also, he got to say Imperious Rex in the final fight, and they set him up to wear the black vest as a means to hide the burns on his back, which is super cool. One of the things that makes this movie special is that it touches on the theme of loss. The loss of Chadwick Boseman really hit everyone involved with the film, so it was nice to see them handle it with enough care that it respects and pays tribute to him and his legacy. We mainly see this through Shuri and Ramonda, who handled T'Challa's passing very differently as I mentioned earlier. The fear of losing Shuri motivated Ramonda to send Nakia to rescue her, while losing Ramonda drives Shuri to recreate the herb and sends her on a quest for vengeance, almost killing Namor after clawing at him and damaging the wings on one of his ankles. The movie demonstrates the effects loss can have on a person and even an entire community of people, and how they handle that loss, something I have found to be absolutely beautiful. So basically, Wakanda Forever is an amazing film. It works as a worthy follow-up to the first Black Panther, while also being a touching tribute to Chadwick Boseman in a way that respects and honors him. It was visually gorgeous outside of a few small instances where things were shot or edited strangely, like the bridge fight with Atuma, and the back and forth cuts to and from the ocean and desert settings in the final battle. And while I could have talked more about the side plot with Everett Ross and Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who we find out is Ross's ex-wife, I felt that while it held significance to some parts of the movie, these characters didn't really add a whole lot to it, outside of Ross helping Wakanda and Val showing up to remind us that the US government is up to something big that'll be explored in a later movie. Overall, this movie stands as one of the better projects to come out of Phase 4 and is easily among the best the MCU has to offer. I'll catch y'all in the next one.